Welcome to Sightseeing Japan, the podcast where we explore the land of creative expression. I'm Paul Bresson.
And I'm Jason Nealing. And Merry Christmas, if you celebrate.
Oh, is this our Christmas episode?
I think it's coming out not long before Christmas.
Okay, sounds about right.
Which means when this episode drops, we'll only be a couple months from our trip.
Yes, it's coming, dude. I got so excited when it got under 3 months.
I know.
That was like the moment where I was like, oh, it's happening.
It's starting to feel like my anxiety is slowly rising the closer we get. It's like, okay, I need to make sure everything is, I tied up all the loose ends. I got all the reservations taken care of and everything.
I'm not there yet. My excitement is building, though. That's for sure.
I still got to spend some time and find some restaurants. I'm determined this time to eat at the Konbini less and go to more real restaurants.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like last time you almost wanted to eat as much as you could at the Konbini.
Since we're traveling together and we can't eat together, really, I end up going to the Konbini out of convenience a lot. But
I think that there will be so many opportunities where like the Konbini's what's there that we'll end up eating a lot of Konbini food. So like whenever we have a chance to go to a nice restaurant, we should take it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking like, I know where we're going to be. I want to have a restaurant picked out at every single area we're going to be in. So whenever I start to feel hungry, it's like, oh, let me just walk over here and eat at this place.
Okay.
Instead of, oh, let's just grab something at the Konbini.
Sure.
Anyway, speaking of our trip, I got to once again mention the podcast meetup, 6 p.m., February 7th, 2026, Sapporo, Japan. Details are in the show notes. There's a link showing you exactly what street corner we're meeting on. Okay, moving on. Paul, do you want to have a little anime segment? Because I've been watching some stuff lately.
Yeah, what have you been watching?
Well, as you know, I just happened to receive some free figurines from the anime Tokyo Revengers.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched the first season, 24 episodes long. I just showed you my new figurines. What do you think of them? Like when I got these, I knew absolutely nothing about the anime. But just looking at these, I thought like, oh, these just look like some punk kids.
Yeah, they definitely got like the Japanese punk look to them for sure.
Well, Tokyo Revengers is all about street gangs. They're like fighting for territory and that kind of stuff. They're actually motorcycle gangs. And you hear the word bosozoku a lot.
They got those tricked out, like the 6-foot back on their motorcycle and stuff.
No, these are the OGs.
Okay.
These are just normal motorcycles.
Like actual motorcycles, not scooters.
Yeah. The guys that trick out their motorcycles all crazy, they're like inspired by these OG motorcycle gangs.
Okay.
And actually, so there's like a time travel element to the show too, and most of it takes place in like 2005, I want to say.
Okay.
So yeah, this is like a certain era of Tokyo street gangs, right? And actually, the author of the manga was in a gang when he was younger. So he's like writing about the time period when he was actually in a gang. So I assume it's fairly accurate.
Yeah, definitely based in reality a bit.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But these figurines that I got.
Yeah.
When I first saw these, I thought like, oh, these are just some gangster wannabe types.
Yeah.
But now that I've watched the show, these two figurines that I have, these are like the worst guys in the whole show. They're absolute monsters. They'll do anything for power, and they're horrifying. Like, I wouldn't want to come face to face with either one of them ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So good show? You enjoying it?
I did really enjoy it. The plot had enough twists and turns to keep me engaged the whole time.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just an interesting peek into, like, that sort of culture. Like I said, I don't know exactly how accurate it is, but I assume it's fairly close to reality, or at least draws on this guy's real experience. But what did really surprise me was that in addition to all the blood, because there's a lot of blood, there's also a lot of tears. The main character is almost constantly crying, and he's a little wimpy compared to the other gangsters anyway. But you see the other gangsters crying too. Even the totally awesome, cool dude that everybody looks up to that's leading the gang, he gets emotional. And like it shows all these real relationships between these guys. Like there is a masculinity and they're all very eager to fight. but it's not the same flavor of toxic masculinity that we have here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Different social norms. I think maybe it's also like these gang members are going to be countercultural, rebellious, and being so open and loud and brazen with your emotions in Japan might be a way of doing that.
Sure. Yeah. One thing that has come to mind from watching this is like, we did an episode about Yakuza, organized crime, and it made me wonder like how these types of street gangs might be connected to the Yakuza, because, I got the impression from that episode that the Yakuza kind of oversee all crime, or if it's not like a part of their organization, they at least have some influence over it, or like they keep it under control in a certain way.
Yeah.
But they don't mention the Yakuza once in this whole show.
Okay.
Which kind of surprised me.
Huh. You'd think that like these kids would be who the Yakuza's like recruiting out of.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's another thing too, is in the portion of the show that takes place in 2005, they talk about these guys being in middle school, which is a little bit different in Japan. The ages don't quite line up to middle school here in the US.
Sure.
So these guys are mostly around like 14, but it's still crazy to me imagining being 14 and getting in these huge brawls, beating people up with steel pipes and stuff.
It is pretty wild, but I will say that the most unhinged people in the world are middle schoolers. Because
Very true.
You just, like, you're becoming an adult and your hormones are raging, but you haven't quite figured out how to control yourself or be a reasonable person yet.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I think back to middle school and it was like, oh my God, what were we doing, dude? I can't even imagine.
Right. But back to the Yakuza thing for a second. In the show, like I said, there's that time travel thing. And in the future, they look at these same organizations and they've kind of grown to like Yakuza level. So I wonder if it's almost like these little street gangs turn into Yakuza families, like whole syndicates.
Sure. Sure.
Anyway, fun show. I recommend it. Dude, what bugged me though? So I watched the first season on Crunchyroll. There are, I think, 4 seasons of the show now.
Okay.
All the rest of them have been licensed by Disney. You can
What?
only get them on Disney Plus or Hulu
Oh,
or
that
something.
sucks.
Yeah, I was really bummed because
I feel like normally Netflix is the king of that. Like
Yeah.
Netflix will have the first season of like all the hit anime, and then they'll never bring in any subsequent seasons.
Yeah. I don't know. I might watch the rest of the seasons eventually, but right now I just started a movie, actually, an anime movie called Suzume.
Oh, okay.
I'll wait till I finish that to talk about it.
Okay.
But what have you been doing lately? Anything good?
Basketball. It's basketball season. I've been watching and going to a lot of Timberwolves games.
Well, that's not interesting. Let's get to the topic. I'm just kidding.
Now, Anthony Edwards is making another leap. He's so good.
Don't know who that is.
So good. Like, wouldn't be surprised if he wins an MVP in the next couple of years.
Okay. Should I go to the bathroom and you can just talk to the listeners about basketball for a second?
No, I'll leave it there. This isn't quite the right podcast for that, I think.
Okay, that works for me.
Maybe someday we'll do a basketball in Japan podcast. It's an interesting subculture over there.
Is it?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard anything about basketball in Japan.
Yeah, they got a couple NBA players.
Okay. But what are we talking about today, Paul? It's anime related, actually.
Yes. We are going to dive into cosplay today. Cosplay is very simply dressing in a costume to represent a character, a specific character. It could be a character from anime, manga, comic books, TV, movies, video games, or even a meme.
The word cosplay is one of those Japanisms. Is that a thing?
It is now.
Japan likes to smash words together. It's just the word costume and play put together. Costume play, cosplay, or in Japanese, cosplay. So from a Western perspective, I feel like this might remind people of Halloween. That's the big time of year when everybody's dressing up as their favorite characters and stuff. But Paul, is Halloween cosplay, you think?
I think generally no. I think it's not so cut and dry. But one thing about Halloween is that not everyone's dressing as a specific character. Like you might go as a ghost, or I was a privateer or pirate, you know. Some people do a specific character, but there's a lot less of that, which makes it not really cosplay. I think maybe there's the fact that you're dressing up for like a cultural event rather than just like going out on your own and doing a costume for a character is a little bit different than what cosplay would be.
I think another element of cosplay, and it's not super rigid, but I feel like in the subculture of cosplay, people put in a lot more effort than people tend to for something like Halloween. I mean, you could just go to Spirit Halloween and buy a costume and say that you're cosplaying and go to an event or something. But I feel like most people in that culture put in a lot of effort, and some people make their own costumes.
True.
There's a lot of like makeup. Like it's just really a lot more in-depth than most people go for Halloween.
People are cosplaying because they love the character and they really want to dress up as it. And some people are doing that for Halloween, but a lot of people on Halloween are just wearing a costume because they want to party and you got to wear a costume, kind of.
Yeah. There's also the element of role-playing, right? In cosplay, it's not just about looking like the character. You actually want to become that character, especially since so much of cosplay is about animated character. It's like taking a 2D thing and bringing it to real life.
Yeah.
I actually found an interesting quote about the goal of cosplay, Paul.
Okay.
This is from somebody local, actually. Frenchie Lunning is a professor emeritus at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design who specializes in anime.
Okay.
Quote, "The goal in cosplay is not to produce and perform a character to take part in a theatrical narrative designed for an audience to view, but for an individual fan subject to embody and identify with an adored character whose persona is real for the fan, actor, and or creator of the cosplay costume. The creation of the costume is as much a part of the loving and community-based aspect of fandom as the actual performance. This separates the cosplay costume from its roots in costume history."
Well, that about sums it up pretty well. It's been nice. On our next episode, we will be discussing... that is what do you expect from an academic. That is a great way to put it.
That was the most academic thing I can find about anime, or about cosplay. I also have some statistics, if you'd like.
Yeah, please.
Not specifically about Japan, but cosplay worldwide, because this is a worldwide phenomenon. It's not just a Japanese thing.
Yes.
So, in the whole world, there are an estimated 10 million cosplayers. Altogether, they spend around $4.8 billion US dollars, or in 2023 alone, that was the amount spent, $4.8 billion.
Wow.
It's expected to grow to an $8.7 billion industry by 2033.
Wow.
So still growing. In 2022, cosplay events drew 36 million attendees.
Okay.
So a lot of people apparently go to multiple events per year. Also, 64% of cosplayers are female, and 60% are between the ages of 23 to 29.
Okay. Sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really fascinating that it's grown so much that there are professional cosplayers now. Like they have become famous and make their living from appearing in cosplay and selling photo books and calendars and things like that.
It's pretty cool.
I think that's so cool. Like I couldn't have imagined that 20 years ago, you know?
For all the negative things I have to say about the modern digital world that we live in and stuff, it is kind of cool that there are mechanisms through which a lot of people can make a living with their passions in ways that would have been completely impossible previously.
Yeah.
Like if our podcast were able to support us entirely. Just our love of Japan and talking into microphones to people around the world. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember when I was first getting into anime and cosplay, in the early 2000s.
Wait, you're a cosplayer?
No, like getting into consuming cosplay media.
Okay, looking at pretty girls in costumes, you mean?
That's exactly what I mean. You know me so well. In costumes of characters that I liked and knew, it was so hard to find. Like if you weren't going to an anime convention, here and there, I would like find someone that had a personal website that they maybe had 20 photos on that I could wait 30 seconds for it to load type of thing. It was like really hard to find. And now it's like you can pull up Instagram and find like thousands of cosplayers that all have like 100,000 plus followers on there that are just pumping out content every day. The proliferation of it is amazing.
Yeah. Do you feel like that exclusivity early on helped drive your weebdom, though? Was it more exciting to find stuff that's hard to get?
Probably. Yeah. I was a little bit of a counterculture pursuer, I didn't like doing what was popular always. I wanted to do something different just to be different.
Sure.
Type of thing. So
I relate with that totally.
It was cool that I was getting into something that like wasn't out there very much. I was in the group.
It was cool that you were getting into something that everybody else thought was really uncool.
Yeah. Anime was such a small community. Like it was really fun to find other people that were into it too.
Yeah. I know, it's funny, like there's a sense of community that comes with being in this smaller group, when it's exciting to find people that think like you because they're not super common. But these days, anime and manga and cosplay stuff is so mainstream. Like there are pros and cons to that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You kind of lose that sense of community a bit, even though the community grows so much.
Right, it grows so big that it's harder to make a personal connection because there's 1,000 people there.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do think with you were talking about with the internet and the proliferation of content, you can find anything that you're into. You can find other people that are into it. There's going to be a Discord or a website or a YouTube channel of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's both good and bad in that way, I guess.
It's also interesting to see the interplay between the communities in Japan and elsewhere. And, in this research, I thought it was interesting to see how the culture is different in Japan and outside of Japan. I saw that in the U.S., there are much bigger conventions where cosplay happens, but in Japan, there's a much larger number of events. There are as many as 4,000 to 5,000 cosplay events each year in Japan.
Wow.
Yeah. So focusing on Japan, like, Paul, why do you think this is such a big part of Japanese pop culture? Why is it so popular there?
I mean, that's quite the question. I think that, Japanese people are really passionate people, and it's a way that they can like openly express themselves in a society where you don't always get to express yourself.
That's very insightful, Paul. I looked into this to try to find like what it is about Japan that makes it especially popular there, and the only answer I could find is that, going back to how Japan is such a conformist society where you're expected to act in a certain way, and cosplay is a form of escapism from that rigidity and also gives people a way to express themselves.
If I wanted to be a little cynical about it, now that I think about it, there's also like a lot of otaku, nerdy, lonely men, and they like cosplay and they like seeing their characters dressed up. And there's probably people that like dressing up and getting attention.
Sure. It's also a way to meet people. I hear that a lot of cosplayers in Japan are really like shy and introverted and don't necessarily like being around a lot of people. So like these conventions and events give people a way to connect with people with similar interests, but also, remember we talked in the mascots episode about how when you put on a mask and you become this other character, it gives you freedom to act in ways that you wouldn't normally because it doesn't reflect on you personally. You're just playing a character.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And also, of course, all this ties back to the fact that anime and manga are really popular inside and outside of Japan. And, communities just naturally form around things that people have a common affinity for.
Yeah.
And as a creative outlet, I think a lot of people involved in cosplay just really get something out of like making something with their hands and making it extremely detailed. It's incredible.
It's a fun project to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is so creative. Like looking at a drawing or something and trying to bring that to life as actual clothing that maybe wouldn't even work in the real world, but you have to somehow make it work as clothing but look like the character. Like, it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
And overcoming those challenges can be really fun.
So, Paul, I was surprised at both how old and how new the idea of cosplay is. Do you know what I mean by that?
I think I do, but I'm wondering how old is for you. Like,
Okay.
how far are you going back with this?
Well, just the idea of a bunch of people dressing up in costumes and getting together, that's a pretty old idea.
Yeah, like masquerade balls or old carnivals.
That's where I was going. The Renaissance in Europe.
You know, yeah.
Around the 15th century, masquerade balls were a big thing. I didn't really know anything about these. Like, I just knew they were dances or whatever where people got together with masks, and, you know, it was maybe there's kind of a sexy kind of connotation to it because you don't really know who everybody is or something.
A little mystery there.
Yeah. But I didn't realize that these were actually connected to a Christian tradition.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
The very idea of carnival season is from Christianity. Carnival season is where Christians celebrate and indulge themselves before Lent,
Sure.
which is when people fast and choose something to give up often. It's about repentance. That's what Lent is, right? So, like, I don't know. I never knew the origin of the word carnival. Like, that's where carnivals come from, is partying before Lent.
Okay. You got to make sure you do some things that you got to repent for later.
I guess. It's your last big hurrah. And that's where masquerade balls came from, too. They started at these carnivals. But to be fair, it's not directly like cosplay, because that was more about disguising your identity rather than dressing up like a specific character.
Yeah.
It's more about hiding yourself rather than becoming someone else.
Yeah.
Speaking about Japan specifically, some historians tie the origins of cosplay to kabuki theater.
Really?
Yeah. That dates back to the early 17th century, and kabuki actors wear elaborate costumes and makeup and often portray multiple characters that they really have to inhabit, similar to modern cosplayers. And, you know, we've talked about how in No theater, which is sort of connected to kabuki, like, you wear these masks. In kabuki, it's more makeup, but it's not just about looking like a certain character. It's like your whole body changes so that you're moving like this character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like that could tie very easily into the modern idea of cosplay.
Sure.
But in the early 1900s, there was a social development around the world without which modern cosplay could not exist. You know what that is, Paul?
Science fiction? Conventions?
Not quite that specific. I was going for the rise of mass media.
Okay.
You know, the rise of film and radio meant that for the first time, tons of people who were separated geographically could have shared audio-visual experiences. Like, before that point, I never really thought about it much, but before film and radio, pop culture, as it exists today, like, just couldn't exist. Media couldn't get out to people fast enough for fandoms to really form. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So stemming from all that media coming out, the closest thing I could find that really seemed like the beginnings of cosplay to me were in the early to mid 1900s. People started wearing costumes of specific characters to conventions, often sci-fi conventions. The first time in my life that I think I really got introduced to cosplay would arguably be Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a huge Trekkie, and it was just normal. Yeah, we kind of made fun of it when we were younger. Like, haha, the Star Trek nerds are all dressing up and going to the convention.
And then we realized how cool it was.
Yeah, right. And then I was like, I actually love Star Trek, and I want to dress up too, you know? So that was kind of happening. And eventually in Japan, people started dressing up at conventions as well. I'm not sure. It's hard to pin down exactly when this stuff first happened.
Yeah, I got the sense that the costumes and convention stuff really started in the US, especially after World War II. That was when pop culture fandoms started to pop up, and it seemed like most of them were around sci-fi. You mentioned Star Trek specifically, but other sci-fi stuff. There were actually conventions that weren't Star Trek conventions. They were just sci-fi conventions, and people would dress up as any kind of sci-fi related thing they could think of.
I'm the robot from Mars or whatever,
Star Wars, of course, came into that too. And you could even argue that the anime and manga fandom is just an offshoot from sci-fi fandom, really.
Yeah.
So at these various fan conventions, dressing up as specific characters slowly started becoming a thing, starting with the first World Science Fiction Convention, which was held in New York in 1939. I also thought this was funny. Eventually, they had to make a no costume is no costume rule.
Yeah. Yeah. That was in the 70s, though, right? That sounds like a 70s thing.
Well, I heard that the first nude contestant at a Worldcon masquerade was in 1952.
Wow, pushing boundaries there.
And that must have been extremely controversial.
I feel like in the 50s, you get like arrested at the beach for wearing a bikini. That was like too revealing.
Right. That's how I imagine the 50s. But yeah, more and more people started coming to these conventions nude, so they had to make a rule about that.
You actually have to wear something.
Sounds fun, though.
Yeah, someone's having a good time. I feel like maybe one of the big turning points for Japan is that the Comiket convention began in 1975.
Yeah, sci-fi conventions had also existed in Japan since the 60s, but yeah, Comiket was definitely the big game changer. And that's probably, the 70s around that period is probably the beginning of cosplay in Japan, specifically, right?
Yeah, it's definitely when it took off.
And what is Comiket?
It's by far the largest doujinshi convention in Japan, which is fan-made manga, basically.
Yeah, self-published works.
But there's also a ton of cosplayers. That's just like thousands of cosplayers show up to every one of these.
Mm-hmm. But back when it started in the 70s, people still weren't calling it cosplay at this point, right?
It was kaso,
which just refers to dressing up. They also had the English loan words like costume and masquerade, but those have certain connotations that don't quite fit with this kind of subculture. So, Paul, I'm sure you read about where the term cosplay originated, right?
Yes. It was coined by Nobuyuki Takahashi in a article in the My Anime magazine in 1983. And I think this is great. I think it's a great word. I think it's an amazing way to say it. And apparently he was kind of debating what to call it, and he didn't like the masquerade term. It was too old-fashioned, and I'm so with him there. Trying to call it like masquerado or something, it would lose some of its magic.
Yeah.
I really think that the name cosplay is maybe a small piece, but it's a piece of what makes it so cool and special.
Yeah, I gotta admit, like the first time I heard the word cosplay, just the play part made me think it was something sexual. It makes me think of like role playing in costumes.
Well, sometimes.
Well, yeah, there's some crossover there, I guess. But
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Spend too much time on the internet and you start having thoughts like that.
When you're talking about adults playing, brings up a certain image, I guess.
Yeah.
But so this term cosplay first appeared in print in that magazine, like you said, Paul, and it slowly caught on at conventions and became common knowledge in Japan in the 90s, apparently.
Yeah.
I have a quote from Takahashi,
okay,
the guy that wrote that article. When asked if he had ever cosplayed, he said, "Nope, not even once. Typically, I wear casual clothes at the office. Whenever I wear a business suit, that's me cosplaying." Cosplaying as a businessman.
That's great.
Yeah, I thought it was really poignant, the idea of wearing a suit being cosplay, playing a character that's not really who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's why I don't own a suit. It would feel inauthentic. The 1980s was also when much more anime and manga started being exported to the rest of the world, and with that, the Japanese flavor of cosplay. Again, there's kind of this interplay between East and West, right?
Yeah.
Like, we didn't quite do cosplay the same way they did in Japan until that idea kind of came over. People started treating it in a similar way. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
So the first anime-specific convention in the U.S. was called AnimeCon. AnimeCon. I don't know why I said it, anime. AnimeCon in 1981.
Man, that's crazy. Like, there was, like, no anime released in the U.S. in 1981.
Yeah, it was pretty niche at that point.
Like, maybe there was, like, a kids show out somewhere or something that had been dubbed. I don't know, but there wasn't much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Like, you got the fan conventions in the West, the sci-fi stuff, and then Japan sees that, and they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, we can do that with our pop culture stuff. And then America's like, oh, Japan's got that really cool pop culture stuff. Let's dress up like that.
I also feel like, I don't think that anybody really cares about this, but I do feel like there's a little bit of a divide in American cosplay where you have like the weebs that are cosplaying anime, and then you have just like the American pop culture people that are cosplaying superheroes and stuff like that.
Well, it's funny.
It's kind of like a little bit separate, but they're kind of together too.
Right. But that's changed over time too. Like first it was the sci-fi people, but then I feel like when anime first started becoming popular, there was a huge amount of overlap between those communities, right? The sci-fi people and the anime people. A lot of people into both of those things, but
I guess if I'm the case study, yes.
But now that Marvel and that kind of stuff is so mainstream, but anime also is mainstream.
Right.
But I feel like I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's overlap now, but maybe less than there used to be. Like, I feel like nowadays you're probably into one more than the other. I don't know. I'm just kind of making stuff up at this point.
Probably, but I think like a lot of the conventions now will have everything. It's all just pop culture. Like a lot of these conventions, there'll be superheroes, there'll be Marvel, there'll be anime, there'll be games.
I think it depends on which convention you go to.
True.
But yeah.
The 90s is when the popularity of cosplay kind of started blowing up in Japan because it started getting on TV and in magazines, and anime was blowing up too. So that really kind of launched the scene. And then it was in the late 90s when you started getting cosplay cafes. The first ones of those popping up in Akihabara.
Mm-hmm.
So it really started kind of entering like the mainstream lexicon of what's out there. You know, what's really interesting is, I know we've talked about maid cafes before, and thinking that the first maid cafe opened in Japan in 2001. Like, I went to a maid cafe in 2008, and now that we're in 2025, I'm like, that wasn't quite at the dawn, but like, man, like maid cafes weren't even 10 years old yet. Like, that's kind of, it hadn't even been a thing for that long.
I thought it was the late 90s. Was it really after?
The first specific maid cafe in Japan was 2001.
Okay.
There were some themed cafes. I think, if I remember correctly, this is in my notes, I think the first maid cafe might have been in Taiwan or something. And then it came to Japan.
You're not thinking of cat cafes?
It is that too, but I think it might have been both.
Okay. Well, anyway, do you remember when you went to that first maid cafe, how much had you heard about it? Like, did you realize that it was a relatively new thing?
I don't know. I just knew it was a thing. You know, at the time, I was just learning all this stuff about Japan. And it was like, oh, wow, this crazy thing they do in Japan. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I studied the history or knew how long it had been going on. I just knew it was a thing.
Man, at this point, like, I have all this random stuff about Japan in my head. I don't remember where it came from. You know, I wish I could remember when I first heard of maid cafes.
Right. Where did I even learn all this stuff about Japan 20 years ago?
Yeah,
like weird random message boards that I found on the internet somewhere. I don't even know, dude.
Yeah.
Or just watching anime.
It is funny how much culture you pick up just from watching anime.
You know, I feel like I learned a bit. Did you ever watch the Genshiken anime?
No.
It's an anime about a group of like super otaku in college in Japan. They have a after school group they call Genshiken. And like A couple of them are cosplayers, a couple of them are really into video games, and it just really dives into the culture. And like, I learned a lot about just the fandoms just from watching that show.
That sounds fun.
And it's really interesting too, because it's like an anime show about anime fans. It's like this weird, like self-aware type of thing.
Cool.
The first World Cosplay Summit was held in October 2023 in Nagoya, Japan. And there were even international cosplayers there, even at that time.
Cool. Later in the 2000s, of course, with the rise of social media and the like, it's easier than ever for fans of a certain IP to find each other, come together, create their own communities. All sorts of cosplayers on social media all over the internet. And now there are cosplay communities and fans around the world. People of all ages participating.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Paul, do you want to go through how to cosplay?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the very first step is you got to choose a character, right?
Yep.
And there are a lot of considerations here.
Yeah.
Even if you know your favorite character, you got to decide, well, do I want to take this seriously and like just try to be as faithful to the source material as possible? Or maybe you want to make it kind of jokey, you know? Some people have fun with their costumes and put a fun twist on it.
Yeah. Do you think you can do that character justice? You know, do you care about the accuracy? Or are you just trying to have fun? You know, you got to think about that.
Mm-hmm. Some people combine multiple characters. I saw a picture of a guy that was like in an Iron Man suit, but the head had like those big things coming off the top, like Wolverine. It was like Wolverine crossed with Iron Man.
Okay. I like some of the creative ones, like, I'm going to be Fat Goku, you know, or something.
Yeah, you can put twists on a character in any way that you can think of. Like maybe have a certain anime character that you really like, but you want to make a steampunk version of that or a cyberpunk version of that or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
What gender character do you want to do? So there's a term crossplay, right?
Yeah.
Which is where you're cosplaying as a character of the opposite gender.
Yeah.
But it didn't occur to me that crossplay can come in two different flavors. You can either try to be faithful to the other gender character. Like if I were to dress up as Miku, let's say Hatsune Miku, I'm going to be Hatsune Miku. I'm going to put on the makeup and like make myself look as feminine as possible. You know, that's one type of crossplay. Or I could choose to be Miku, but make it a male version of Miku, right?
Yeah, like grow a beard.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I couldn't do that.
You like you grow some scraggly whiskers and just, yeah.
So Paul, let's just have like a real world example, right? Who are you gonna crossplay as?
Oh, crossplay?
Yeah. Just for fun. Let's say it's crossplaying.
Okay, just off the top of my head, how about Misato from Neon Genesis Evangelion?
Excellent choice. Are you going to be a feminine version of Misato?
Yes.
Okay.
I wouldn't. It's okay to do it however you want, but personally, I wouldn't want to take that character I love and try to change her. I want to try to be her as she is.
I understand. She's almost like sacred. Like you don't want to change perfection, right?
Yeah, I want to be faithful to the lore.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you got your character. Next step, you want to start thinking about how you're going to make this costume. Maybe a lot of people make their own costumes, like we said, but you could also buy your costume, or you could even buy like parts of your costume and then hand make other parts. A lot of those costumes that you can buy pre-made, it's like some of the parts are workable, but some of them are just like really cheap and crappy looking, and maybe those are the ones you want to make yourself, right?
Yeah.
So I remember finding stores in Akihabara that sell costumes from popular anime.
Mm-hmm.
What I think is cool are the wigs, and I think you're going to need a wig for Misato.
Yes.
Right? She's got purple hair, big purple hair, right?
Yeah, when you're dealing with anime or game characters, they're going to have these wild hair colors and hairstyles.
Yeah, if I'm going to be Miku, I need the teal twin tails. Right?
Yeah.
That's what Miku is. That's how you recognize her.
A lot of cosplayers that I follow, the wig seems to be like the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like, I got the costume already. They usually buy these wigs and then they have to cut them and style them themselves.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to find one that's already kind of perfect for that character.
Right.
So you get the color you want and the length you want, and then you've got to kind of figure it out yourself.
To be like a really top tier cosplayer, you need to acquire so many skills, just to get the hair right. You basically need to learn how to be a hairdresser,
Yeah. There are like really high level people that you can hire to make custom costumes for you.
It's going to be extremely expensive.
Yeah, it's going to be like a few $1,000s or something, but that is something that some people do as well. And they will make you something great that fits you perfectly.
Mm-hmm. But whether you make or buy your costume, you're going to want to pay attention to every little detail. If you want to get super accurate, look up your character in all sorts of different settings and different types of shots and different types of scenes and with different types of lighting. Sometimes more details are shown in certain contexts. You probably want to look for a lot of close-ups on different parts of their body so that you know how each little piece works. Because when it's zoomed out, they're not going to spend time drawing every little detail.
Is that lace or is it fishnet? It's hard to figure that out sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You might be able to find a character reference sheet somewhere online that could help you out a little bit.
Sure.
One interesting thing is all sorts of different kind of, I guess, body modification, for lack of a better word. It can be as simple as dyeing your hair, but it could be putting on temporary tattoos or painting your skin green to be whatever alien.
Or putting on prosthetics even.
Yeah.
If you're going really all out and you're like committed to a certain character, you could get a real tattoo instead of fake tattoos.
You could. You might shave your head or your eyebrows to get the look that you're looking for. Accessories are really important. And that's something that even if you buy a costume, it's probably not going to come with all the accessories. Like, do they wear jewelry or anything like that to kind of make that look really hit?
You want to think about your face, too. Like, Paul, if you want to look like Misato, I think you're going to need, makeup for one thing.
Yes.
And, even a lot of guys might feel uncomfortable about wearing makeup, but if you really want to look as much like a character as possible, it's an important part of it. Also, if you're going for a female character, of course, false eyelashes can be helpful. Colored contact lenses. A lot of anime characters have unusual colored eyes.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so as I said, like even guys can wear makeup, not even if you're just dressing up as a female character, but like to make yourself look more like a male anime character, there's certain types of makeup that can help with that. Let's say you're doing Link from Legend of Zelda. You need some eyeliner. That guy is always wearing eyeliner. Have you looked at pictures of him?
Yeah.
He's like the twinkiest dude. You need a bunch of makeup for that. And the pointy ears, need some prosthetics for that.
Yeah. I think one of the most difficult things, other than the wig, can be the shoes. Because you can't just buy custom shoes. You got to scour around trying to find something close enough. And then people will put in lots of work. They'll paint the shoes or they'll modify them and do all sorts of things to get that look. It's just so incredible the work some of these people do because these fictional characters, like they have costumes that aren't real life costumes. And you've got to try to take this animated thing and make it work in the real world. And you got to get really creative.
And like the way that things flow in animation, whether it's the hair, the way the hair bounces around or sticks at a weird angle, or even like a cloak or something, you can like reinforce it in certain areas to get it to drape the way that you want it to in the anime.
Yeah.
What I think might be the most impressive for me is the people that dress up like a Gundam or a mecha of some sort, and they build like this whole giant suit around him.
That's so cool.
Amazing.
Or Transformer. I feel like I've seen a couple videos of like kids for Halloween where they're like walking around and they look like a mecha, and then they like crouch down and they turn into a car.
Yeah.
Like that's so cool.
It is really cool.
Another thing we haven't talked about yet is weapons or accessories. Like especially you're talking like anime or video games. Some of these people might have swords that are taller than them. and
Like
you've
Cloud from
or
Final Fantasy.
yeah, or guns or things like that. So to be faithful to it, you've got to try to find a way to recreate that. There's lots of techniques out there. People use foam or other things that they can kind of mold and paint. That's not insanely heavy. Some people even do real armor.
Like metal armor.
Yeah, if your character wears armor, people will like really make armor.
That's pretty intense. I feel like a lot of the people at these conventions must be incredibly uncomfortable the whole time they're there.
Oh,
A lot of this stuff
dude.
does not look like it'd be fun to spend hours in.
Well, I guess another thing we didn't talk about is latex. Like a lot of these characters are wearing skin tight things in these shows, so people wear latex, and the sweat and the heat has got to be insane.
Yeah, I saw a video about like tips for people that are getting into cosplay, and one of the tips is like always have a little kit of like makeup touch-up kind of stuff because you're gonna get all sweaty, your makeup's gonna get all cakey. It's like you're gonna have to maintain your look throughout the day. You know?
Yeah. All right, I'm all dressed up like Misato now, Jason, and
Beautiful.
I gotta show it off to people.
Yeah, it's not just about looking like Misato. You need to become Misato.
Yes.
So I have a quote here.
Yeah. Okay.
One Japanese cosplayer I read about said, "We place emphasis on expressing an actor's facial expression and atmosphere." I also saw somebody else that was into cosplay, another video about like tips for new cosplayers. You should be prepared to pose. Like if somebody comes up and wants to take a picture, you don't just stand there. You got to like look like that character, you know, make your face look like them. You got to pose like them. You should be ready for all that stuff. So, you know, in your preparation phase, when you're looking at all the anime and whatever, you want to be studying your character's mannerisms, right? Do they arrogantly look down on everyone around them? Well, then you should be doing that too. Or maybe they're meek and kawaii. You got to learn to be meek and kawaii.
Yeah.
You'll probably be practicing in a mirror, right, Paul?
Yeah, you got to get your poses down.
Prepare.
A lot of conventions have cosplay contests too. So you're obviously judged based on how you look, but there's a performance element usually in there. Some people might sing or dance. Others might just strut around and say a line or two or something, but somehow you got to represent that character.
Mm-hmm.
If I was Misato, I'd walk out there all confident and grab the mic and just, Shinji, get in the robot.
Yeah. I bet that would get some applause if you're just like berating Shinji.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's what Evangelion fans are into.
Yeah. It'd be even better if you were teamed up with a guy cosplaying Shinji and he can just cry a lot.
Oh, yeah. Well, they do group contests at conventions too.
Yeah.
So you could do the whole group of Evangelion characters and then kind of all interact with each other and put on a little skit or something as your performance.
I saw at the World Cosplay Summit specifically, there are like teams of 2 people. And there is a whole big performance. Like I saw people doing martial arts on stage, you know, these 2 characters.
Yeah.
It gets pretty intense.
People get wild.
Yeah. But yeah, for a lot of people, it seems like the photography and the modeling aspect is maybe even more important than the social aspect. Like, it's a real point of pride, and I imagine it's incredibly satisfying to, you know, spend a lot of time and effort making this perfect costume and then perfectly representing that character on stage.
Yeah.
Or, you know, just at an event. I also want to say, if you have any interest in trying out cosplay yourself, but you might feel intimidated by, you know, how much goes into it and how serious some people take it, you don't have to go all in right away. Like you can start small with a cheap costume, maybe no makeup, just ease into it. It's not like you're not allowed in a convention if you're not at a certain level or something.
Everything that I have seen makes it seem like the cosplay community is really welcoming.
Yeah.
Like it's okay if you buy your costume. It's okay if it's not great. It's like a bonus if you've made it yourself, but it's not like you're a problem if you didn't. Everyone's just really excited to share their fandom and share their passion. And it's a lot of positivity seemingly going around.
Totally. Yeah. And like I said, I hear that a lot of cosplayers are introverted and awkward. So if you're also like that, you might fit right in. And you can always start out even at home. Like I wouldn't want to dress up and then immediately go out in front of people. I'd want to like get myself comfortable at home and look in the mirror and like get to a point where I'm comfortable with myself enough to present that to other people.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't want to show your Misato until you got it down pat.
Yeah, because I'm going to enter the contest and I'm going to get judged. And I want to do good.
There aren't always contests. I don't want to intimidate people with that either.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a big event at a lot of conventions, but I feel like as a cosplayer, you're more likely to spend more of your time in like the cosplay area getting photos taken of you.
Yeah. All right, Paul, you look great, man. You look exactly like Misato. Now let's hear the voice.
Shut up, Shinji. Get in the robot.
You're Misato. Like that's Misato right there. I can see her standing right in front of me. So now that you're Misato, where are you gonna cosplay?
Well, we just talked about conventions. That's always a good one.
That's the obvious one.
There are so many all over the place.
We'll get to some specific ones in a minute. I got a list of details and stuff, but other places that you might cosplay. Paul, you already mentioned themed cafes.
Yeah.
If you want to hear more about cosplay cafes, you can listen to episode 30. That was about cosplay cafes and animal cafes. I thought that was a really fun episode.
Another interesting trend that's popped up lately, I don't know why I use the word popped up, but like pop-up cafes. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
It would be like a pop-up Pokemon cafe, and it'll only be there for a month or two. But it's so, like, everyone's so into it that even as a guest, like, you can show up wearing cosplay of a Pokemon person, and everyone there is a huge fan, so everyone's going to think it's cool and be into it. That might be a good place to kind of show off some of your stuff.
Oh, I hadn't seen that. I haven't been to any of these pop-up cafes, but whenever I see them, I just hear about, like, themed food and
that's the main part.
Stuff that you can buy or whatever.
When we get into the etiquette, maybe we'll find out why maybe not a lot of people are doing that.
Sure. There are also themed restaurants. We did a whole episode on that, episode 49. And, it occurred to me, like, you might think, is this really cosplay? Because in a lot of these types of things, they're not really playing a specific character. Like maid cafes, they're not a specific maid. They're just the idea of a maid, a generic maid,
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're also role-playing. Like they're embodying that character.
Yeah, they're
calling
playing
you master and
they're
everything.
playing your maid, your fictional maid. There's no hard line of what's cosplay and what's not.
Sure.
It's definitely a little gray.
Yeah.
There are some public areas where it's more common to see. You're not going to see a lot of cosplay in public generally in Japan, but if you do, it's probably going to be in an area like Harajuku or Akihabara, where the young people tend to gather and there's a lot of pop culture.
Maybe. I feel like Akihabara is a good place to find costumes and accessories. Saw a lot of stores selling that types of stuff. But public cosplay isn't a really big thing there. I feel like the one main type of cosplay you'll see is the maids advertising their maid cafes on the street. But if you see people walking around in costumes and stuff, I would say it's probably more likely that they're foreign tourists, really,
yeah,
that think that that's an appropriate place to cosplay.
I mean, those just might be the places that have more of the events that have cosplay,
Sure, perhaps. In Harajuku specifically, you may have heard that you can see a lot of wild costumes there, especially at Jingubashi, which is a bridge just outside of Harajuku Station. And that used to be true. I don't think it's much of a thing anymore, but like that bridge specifically was famous for being the place where you could see cosplayers in Harajuku. Supposedly that's even where the term Harajuku Girls was born. But that was a while ago. Like in the late 90s might have been the peak of that type of culture.
Yeah.
Not such a big thing anymore. And there are reasons for that. Before 1996, this was a pedestrian-only area, but now they've opened that bridge to cars. And
that's too bad.
Yeah, and Takeshita Street is right there too, which has gotten much more touristy and busy.
Yeah.
So I think the cosplayers just kind of got scared off, basically.
Yeah.
But you can still find
another area where it's like, how much of that is just like an extreme fashion versus how much is cosplaying characters? I'm not sure.
Sure, yeah. But I think you can still find some cosplay stores. Like you might find some interesting pieces for your costume.
Yeah.
In Harajuku.
Yeah.
Another place that I think might be the perfect place to cosplay, especially if you're not maybe ready for a big event or something, is photo studios. Did you look into these much, Paul?
I mean, I know it's a really common thing to do is to go to a photo studio, dress up, and take pictures of your costume.
Well, I dug into this a little bit and was a little bit surprised at what I found.
Okay.
So there are a lot of photo studios in Japan that you can rent out that have various settings. Like there will be an area with a classroom or a Japanese style, like traditional room, or a Gothic set or a futuristic one, so that you can take pictures of your cosplay in the right context for your character.
Yes.
Like you don't want to be taking a picture of your Misato in a place where she just doesn't fit, right? You can find like the perfect set, the perfect backdrop for
you
that
need to
character.
find somewhere with like computers and electronics where it looks like maybe she's in a control room or something, you know?
Yeah. And for a price, these places might even be able to provide a photographer for you, or you can bring your own, or you could just bring a friend and a tripod. I looked into this specific place called Hako Stadium. It's apparently a national chain. They have locations around the country. And at these places, they have over 30 sets with different themes. And they rent anything you could possibly want to really make your photo shoot perfect. You can get cameras and lenses and remote controls and all sorts of lighting options and color filters and tripods and ladders. Like, it just goes way deeper than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, like I was surprised at how in-depth the whole cosplay thing can get. Like these places are apparently popular enough. They get enough customers to stay open. And this is all they do. They offer a place for cosplayers to take really cool pictures. And people aren't just popping in for a few photos. It's like an all-day thing. Or at least a good chunk of the day. They sell tickets for either a 5-hour block or for the whole day. And I also was surprised, like I imagined that you buy a certain amount of time in a certain set, but you buy access to the place and then you have access to all of the sets. So there'll be like lines for each set and then you go in and do your pictures. And they even have a cafe and a shop in there. So if you want to take a break for lunch, you can do that. Or if you need to buy some last minute props or a new wig or something, you can get that there. So I don't know. I just didn't, like I'd seen in My Dress Up Darling, they do this kind of thing, right? I just didn't realize it was so elaborate, I guess.
Sure.
Since I mentioned My Dress Up Darling, do you want to, I assume you were going to bring that up at some point in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in learning about cosplay, specifically like the culture and making costumes, My Dress Up Darling is a manga and anime all about two high schoolers who make cosplay and do cosplay. And it's really good. It's really fun. You get to see the passion of their youth and them figuring all this stuff out for the first time.
It's maybe not appropriate for kids. I'll throw that out there. I remember you mentioned this anime on the podcast a long time ago, and I didn't know anything about it. And then I watched it, and I'm like, geez, Paul, I can't believe you're recommending this kind of stuff.
It's mainstream.
I know, but it gets very racy.
It does. It's a romance, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to dig in a little bit deeper into some of these cosplay events?
Yeah, I got a little bit, I guess. I didn't go too deep.
I just got a few sentences about a few of them.
Okay. Well, we brought up earlier the biggest convention in Japan is Comiket.
Or Comic Market. That's another one of those things where they smash words together.
Yeah.
Comic Market, Comiket. It's that semi-annual doujinshi convention in Tokyo. They have a summer Comiket in August and a winter Comiket in December. They're each 3 days long. And like you said, the main point is to sell these doujinshi, the self-published works. But cosplay is also a really big part of it, right?
Yeah. I think all the cosplayers go up to the roof There's usually thousands of them, and that's the designated cosplay display area.
Cool. You get natural light. That's best for photography, right?
Exactly.
We also mentioned the World Cosplay Summit. Takes place annually in Nagoya. And when they say world, they mean it.
Yeah, like 40 countries made it to the final round, it looks like, recently.
So yeah, this one has a big focus on the competition. And if you look at the winners from over the years, it's not, you might expect that it's dominated by Japan because it takes place in Japan. But there have been winners from all over the world. I saw like Brazil, France, Italy, Mexico, Germany, Latvia won one year. This year, in 2025, you know what country took home the medal, Paul?
No, I don't.
It was the USA.
Hey, yep. There we go. It's actually interesting. As much as cosplay is Japanese, you know, we've talked about how it's international. One of my favorite cosplayers is Irish, but she lives in Japan and makes a living cosplaying in Japan.
Cool.
I think part of it is because there's maybe a little bit of idea of like Western beauty standards, but it's also like the different look that you can get from like a blonde white person than you might get from, you know, Japanese people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually like foreigners cosplaying actually do well in Japan.
Cool. I didn't look into this. This just came to my mind, and maybe you know the answer to this. People that make a living cosplaying, they're usually doing like a bunch of different characters, right? Are there people that focus on a single character and like that's their thing?
Not that I have ever seen. It's just how would you make enough content to like make a living off of one single character?
Well, if you have all these different characters, I'm wondering like how do you market yourself? Like if you're trying to get money by making appearances, you know, if people want a specific character, how do they know where to go? You know what I mean?
Well, if it's a character you've done before, they might hire you to come in and be that character. So the bigger your portfolio is, the more costumes you have, maybe the more chances you would get.
Do you think there are people that will like take requests for new characters? Like, oh, I want somebody dressed up like this. Can I pay you to like show up at this dressed up as this character?
I'm sure if the price is right, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not to get too deep into that, but there's appearance fees. Like sometimes like even like car shows in Japan will hire cosplayers to come in to draw attention to their car.
Cool.
You know, wearing a certain thing. You mentioned all the photos and the photo shoots. People will make photo books and promote them and sell them online, or calendars with their pictures and things like that.
I didn't dig. I wish I had researched a little more about that side of it, like making money doing this. I didn't research that too deeply.
If you're popular enough too, the conventions will pay you to come because you will get people to buy tickets to come see you.
Wow. Cool. Well, the last event I was going to talk a little bit about was Comic-Con. Comic-Con started in America, in San Diego, but now it's an international thing. But it does still retain its focus on American pop culture, specifically around comics. So even in Tokyo, at Tokyo Comic-Con, it mostly features costumes from American pop culture. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Paul, let's talk about some rules. Because there are rules, both for cosplayers and for photographers and spectators, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to be talking about in Japan here.
Yeah.
The rules in Japan are more strict and different than they are other places.
And each event is going to have its own set of rules that might be a little different.
True. One thing I found really interesting that I didn't know, I guess I never realized it, is no cosplaying in public in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't show up to the convention wearing your costume. They won't let you in. You have to show up and they'll have a changing area set up. And you have to wait in line and use the changing area before you can go display your costume. And then you've got to go back to the changing area and change out of your costume before you leave for the day.
And you probably also will need to pay for access to that changing area.
Oh, lovely.
It might be part of your like registration fee for the event.
Sure,
but,
sure.
You know, I saw like at Tokyo Comic-Con, for example, you have to change there and you have to pay a registration fee of 1,000 yen. That gives you access to the dressing room. But at the World Cosplay Summit, I saw that it can be as much as 3,500 yen per day to use the changing room.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like you said, there could be lines. There could be really long lines. I heard about people waiting hours to get their turn in the changing room.
Yeah.
And you can't change in the normal bathrooms either.
No, they'll kick you out.
Yeah.
It can be hard, too. Some of these costumes are so elaborate, and you're doing makeup and eyelashes and this and that. It's tough.
Yeah. They also have rules about the costumes themselves, like no indecent exposure. You also can't dress up as police or military, anything that could be confused with actual staff or authority figures.
Yeah. I think you might be okay if it's fanciful enough that like nobody's going to easily actually mistake you for a policeman or something. But yeah, they generally don't like that.
You're also required to wear underwear and shoes, generally.
So when you're cosplaying, there's a designated area to show off your cosplay. So you aren't supposed to even let people take pictures of you outside of that area. You have to go to that area to do your cosplay. It's okay to walk around wearing your costume, but you can't be doing your cosplay thing.
Yeah. And like I said, some events can have really detailed, specific rules. I wanted to list a few from the World Cosplay Summit because they just seemed more intense, I guess. Like there's a huge list of rules. I'll just give you some of the more interesting ones.
Okay.
So at the World Cosplay Summit, as I said, each country is represented by one team of 2 cosplayers. So you need to find like costumes that'll work together, your complementary characters. The costumes must be from Japanese anime, manga, or tokusatsu, which is live action sci-fi or superhero type stuff like Super Sentai, Power Rangers, Godzilla, Kamen Rider, that kind of thing. Costumes must be handmade there, which I guess makes sense because it's all, a contest, basically. You give all photo and video rights to the media. They even have rules about how many props you can have and their dimensions and how much all of your gear can weigh in total. And you have to prepare your own music for the performance, too.
Yeah, they're strict. That's tough.
Take it seriously. Another thing I wanted to point out, just in general, about cosplaying, if you are trying to make money with this.
Don't. It's tough.
Well, this is a rule. Like, even if you're just making costumes and selling them, there are always copyright issues to consider. So the way to get around that is you probably don't want to name a character by name, even if it's obvious who it is. And you can see an example of this if you go to Spirit Halloween, where they sell all these Halloween costumes. Even if they sell a costume that's very clearly Captain America or whatever, they're not going to call it Captain America. They're going to say American superhero or like patriotic superhero or something,
Yeah.
As long as you don't use the name, it seems to be okay, which is kind of funny because like you can look exactly like this character. You just can't say that you're that character.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, at an event or something, as long as you're not selling your services or whatever, people are going to be like, oh, you're this character? That's so cool. That kind of stuff. It's not a big deal.
There'll be rules about your props as well. Like they might not let you come in with real swords, even if your character's a samurai. Also be respectful if you're swinging around a 10-foot sword. Like you have to be careful and control it and not hit people with it. So once you get to that photography area, there's rules and etiquette for the photographers there as well, right, Jason?
Absolutely. I think maybe the biggest rule is ask for permission before you take a photo. You always want consent.
Yep.
Even if you see a bunch of other people taking pictures of somebody, doesn't mean that you can take a picture of that person.
Yes. And then general etiquette of, I think some of this sums up to like, don't be creepy or like,
don't be a stalker.
Overstep. It's like, don't ask for personal contact info or a private photo shoot. Don't follow them when they leave the photo area. That kind of stuff. It's like, ask for permission, take your photos, thank them, move on to the next person. Everybody's happy.
Mm-hmm. Some events have separate ticket types for cosplayers and photographers, so you want to make sure that you get the right type of ticket. And of course, again, all events are going to have their own specific set of rules, but here are some kind of generic ones that I saw that might apply most places. Avoid crowding around a cosplayer. You don't want to box them in, you know. Avoid taking extremely low-angle photos. I saw this picture.
Yeah.
I saw a picture of a cosplayer with like a skirt and just like 20 photographers on the floor taking.
Oh man. Yeah. Oh man.
Don't take close-up photos of breasts, buttocks, private parts, etc. So I guess if you want those types of pictures, you just need to get a really good camera so that you can, zoom in on the picture far enough without a loss of quality, right?
What kind of advice are you giving, bro?
That was a joke.
I think this all just falls squarely in that don't do creepy stuff.
Yeah. Don't demand certain poses. Don't post photos without permission either.
Yeah. Well, like any popular thing, there happens to be a little bit of controversy surrounding cosplay as well.
Wow. Since you put it that way, never really thought about it. But yeah, pretty much all popular things have controversy attached, don't they?
Yeah. It's, anything too good, someone will have a problem with, right?
Sure.
There are concerns of cultural appropriation. Are you dressing up as a character that's a different race than you, and how are you portraying that?
Especially, if you're changing the color of your skin, that's a particularly sticky subject.
Yeah, but this gets tough too because cosplay is popular in so many different parts of the world. Somewhere like Japan doesn't have the same history of race relations that we do in America.
The cultural baggage.
Yeah, and they're going to have different ideas of how it's okay to dress up like this or that.
Right, they're just thinking about representing a character as accurately as possible.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily thinking about how they're changing their body to look like a different race. And that kind of thing comes up, I feel like, every Halloween in the U.S. too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Somebody uses like a Native American headdress or something, and it's.
But then you also get like racist gatekeepers. Like there's been an issue for like Black cosplayers in America dressing up as a character and just idiots being like, you can't be that character because your skin color's not right. It's like so stupid, but there's going to be people that say stuff like that.
Yeah. I did see one place that said like a good guideline was that you should dress up like characters or jobs, but not as other people. And I think this wasn't specifically about cosplay. Maybe it's more about like just dressing up in costume in general.
Yeah.
But like when you're dressing up as other people and not specific characters or specific professions, that's when you start relying on stereotypes and caricatures.
Yeah. It's one thing to go to Halloween as LeBron James, but you can't just go to Halloween and be like, I'm a black guy. Or, like totally inappropriate.
I'm a black basketball player.
Yeah.
Just a generic one.
Right, exactly.
But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, even if you were to dress up as like a black anime character, it's probably still not cool to color your whole body black.
I would not, personally. Yeah. I would not. I might put a wig on with dreadlocks or something. I don't know. There's levels to it.
That's racist, Paul.
Some people would think so.
Yeah. That's why it's controversial. Different opinions. Well, after cultural appropriation, this seems not really like controversy, but I just want to point out that there's like a stigma around cosplay still, even in Japan. Like it can be seen as childish or strange. It's not a super mainstream thing, and most cosplayers in Japan self-identify as otaku, as nerds, basically.
Sure. Yeah.
Another problem that some people can have with cosplay culture is over-sexualization. Right, Paul?
Yeah.
Like in My Dress Up Darling, it's all sexual.
It's not all sexual.
A lot of it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's true that, like you said, the majority of cosplayers are young women. A lot of the costumes are a bit racy. Part of that's just based on the characters in the media that they're portraying. And it's a thing. people like that stuff. So people do that stuff, and some people got a problem with it.
mean,
you're not going to get around it.
Really, like everything can be sexualized.
It
and everything
really-
that can be is.
This is another one that really reminded me of like Halloween. Like every year someone's got a comment about like, oh, you can't just be a cow, you got to be a sexy cow, you know?
Yeah,
like,
right.
That's just always going to be a thing, right?
I remember when we were in Shibuya for Halloween, and there was a girl that was wearing nothing but caution tape.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
I forgot about that. I remember now. It was tastefully done, though.
I mean,
It was maybe not the most inappropriate costume I saw that night. It maybe was, but
caught my attention. But, another, I don't know, just to add on a little bit onto that, there are people that make money off of specifically sexual cosplay.
True.
Right?
True, yes.
Certain website where I bet there's a lot of that.
Yes, absolutely.
I guess the crossplay idea, the gender expectations could be controversial to some people. Some people aren't cool with people dressing up like the other gender, which is something that we unfortunately hear a lot about in the U.S. these days.
Yeah, you can run into, with like male cosplayers, if I'm doing my Misato, you might run into some homophobic comments that people have and things like that. But I guess I don't know what else to say about
It's
that.
just the world we live in.
True.
I got one more thing, Paul.
Okay.
It's not uncommon to see World War II cosplay in Japan.
Oh, okay.
The most popular form is people dressing up like the Imperial Japanese Army, which could be controversial, especially to, Asian countries where they kind of did some bad things.
Yeah, even here, like seeing people dress up as Confederate soldiers.
Yeah.
I'm not like deeply offended, but I'm kind of like,
You're
is
saying
that-
something with
is
that
that
costume.
necessary? you
Right.
know?
But the second most popular form of World War II cosplay is people dressing up like SS officers.
Yeah.
You've seen that?
Oh, yeah.
So from a Western perspective, that's pretty outrageous, right?
Yeah.
Like, you just don't do that. Although we have started to see more of that lately, which is disappointing to say the least. But apparently in Asia, and not just in Japan, but other parts of Asia too, there's not quite that same level of disgust and shock for Nazi imagery.
Yeah. I mean, in Germany and Japan, we're kind of aligned, somewhat allies in World War II, so they were kind of tied together there. So there was some crossing over of military personnel and technology. Also, I hate to say it, but the German uniforms looked the best. They had some pretty snazzy uniforms.
Man, I wonder, like, my perception of Nazis is so, negative. Like, that uniform to me just represents, like, evil. But I wonder if we didn't have kind of that cultural connection there. Like, it's hard to even separate myself from that and try to look at that uniform objectively. Is it cool looking? You think it's cool looking?
Yeah.
All right, well, you heard it, everybody. Paul likes Nazis.
Whoa.
He thinks they're cool.
You gotta stop saying things. Didn't you say I was like Trump or something a couple episodes ago?
Only in the sense that you lie all the time.
Okay, yeah, okay.
That's just facts, Paul.
You're running around like, Paul likes Nazis.
Paul just said he thinks the Nazis look cool.
Only their uniforms. Like, well, just don't say that.
Context doesn't matter anymore, Paul. Words don't matter. People can just say whatever they want. You know this. Anyway, what I read is that in Japan, the Nazis weren't the focus of World War II as much as the Imperial Japanese forces were. So it's just seen as more of like a neutral historical thing. It's not as emotionally charged.
Yeah.
I even saw that Nazi imagery is considered to have a more punk, anti-establishment meaning in Japan.
Interesting.
And you might even see that sometimes in anime. Actually, so this part reminded me of some things. You ever see in anime people wearing red armbands? Even if, like, they don't have swastikas on them necessarily, but they're kind of reminiscent of, the red Nazi armbands.
Yeah.
Haruhi even had an armband.
Or like
because she was
director
the leader of
armband
the SOS.
Yeah.
Even SOS sounds a little bit like SS. But Another reason that you see the stuff in Japan might be that in Asia, they don't learn as much about the war in school or certain parts of the war. So they're not as aware of like what it means to other parts of the world.
Sure.
Like
Sure.
they're not, people that are dressing up as Nazis in Japan aren't
And-
thinking about the people in the US or Germany or whatever. They're going to be really offended by that,
Yeah, right. And that's, like we said, time goes by. World War II is starting to be a long time ago. There's been lots of wars with lots of terrible atrocities throughout human history. But if your grandfather wasn't affected by it, it starts to lose that feeling for you, Like you can think
Yes.
about Julius Caesar slaughtering the Gauls 2,000 years ago. And yeah, that sounds awful, but it was so long ago, it's hard to feel super passionately about it.
And now people have toga parties and everybody's a Julius Caesar, right?
Right.
Well, Paul, if people are interested in seeing some cosplay, I bet you have some recommendations on places they could go, huh? Leave out the sexual one, that specific website. You won't need to talk about that. We'll keep
okay.
this a family-friendly episode.
In person, anime convention be the easiest place to see a lot of cosplay. Otherwise, I personally use Instagram. I think that's the best platform for cosplay online right now.
Instagram is an old person's social media, Paul. What about TikTok? I bet there's all sorts of cosplay on TikTok.
I wouldn't know.
Me either, but I bet.
Probably.
I bet it's true.
Probably.
YouTube has got a bunch of cosplay stuff.
Instagram's cool because you can do pictures and you can do videos. So it's kind of nice that you kind of get the both. I don't know if you can do that on TikTok.
Oh, good point. Good point. Although, man, isn't it? I find it disappointing that basically all social media sites are trying to be TikTok now.
Yeah, everything's just like short videos.
Even YouTube.
I know
is
they're
TikTok
pushing
now.
they're pushing the short videos.
Oh man.
The one nice thing I like about the shorts on YouTube is it does help me find cool channels. If I'm like, oh, that was actually a really cool fact, I'll go click on their channel and then like find their 30-minute video and be like, yes.
Paul, okay, I will say there is one channel that I found that I'm absolutely in love with, and they pretty much only do shorts. Do you know the Chit Show?
No.
I got to show you the Chit Show, man. It's the best. It's so good.
Okay. Be very careful on your pronunciation of that, or you're going to have to make this an explicit.
That's CHIT. And I think I'm trying to think, is it family friendly? Mostly. Maybe PG-13 or something. Anyway, Twitch. People cosplay and stream on Twitch, right?
Yep.
You can even watch people go through the process of dressing up on some of these platforms.
Yeah.
And, there are communities that you can join. If you want to get involved, you can learn from other people that have been doing it for a long time. I think that's pretty cool. If you're in Japan, you should probably go look for tickets to one of the 4,000 to 5,000 annual cosplay events. That would be a pretty fun thing to do on your vacation, huh?
Actually, might be.
Anything else, Paul? Have we adequately covered cosplay?
I'm satisfied, Jason.
Good. Took us a while to get to this one, huh?
Yeah. We always say that, though. There's just too many good topics.
That's true.
You can't cover everything.
But this is like such a popular subculture.
Yeah. But we've done anime and manga now. You got to go in order, right?
Yeah. Well, before we go, got to thank our Shogun level patrons, Georgette and Caitlin Seymour, Kelly Ardong, Kevin Phillips, Pamela Arola, Jack, Brady K, Yasmin, and Kevin Harris. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Very, very much. And our emperors, Eric and John W., thank you as well.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And for anyone out there who's planning a trip to Japan, you may want to check out our website, sightseeingjapanpodcast.com. We have a bunch of travel tools and pictures, maybe give you some ideas of where to go.
We've got Jason's awesome packing list on there.
We got Paul's awesome vegan in Japan guide. A lot of good stuff. And if you find any of that helpful, maybe consider going to the support us page. And you could either join our Patreon or send a donation, whatever you think makes sense. Maybe just go tell your friends that they should go to Japan and listen to our podcast too.
There you go.
Paul, what are we talking about next time?
Our next episode's really special, Jason.
I think is it the Patreon one?
It is the Patreon selected episode.
That's exciting.
It was a tight race.
It was.
And the winner is service culture in Japan, which I am very interested in. I think this is a great topic. I am ecstatic that our patrons picked this one for us.
Me too. Did you realize, Paul, that the person that suggested this topic is the same person that suggested the winning topic last year?
No way.
Yep.
No way.
Pamela Arola. Great ideas.
Will they be able to three-peat? We'll find out
That's
next season.
Pamela gets a hat trick. I told her we need to do something special, We need to give her some sort of reward. Maybe she gets the first podcast challenge coin or something.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to branch out into merch, and she gets the first merch.
If she gets 3 in a row, we should just let her pick one every season. Because she's obviously picking the good topics, right?
Well, thanks to everybody that participated in the poll and suggesting topics. I thought they were all really great ideas.
Yeah, there were quite a few good ideas there.
Well, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.